Welcome in to the Week 10 Start Sit Show. Joined as always by my much smarter co-host, Ryan Mackey, who you can find on Twitter at Mackey_FFB. Ryan, the big question of the day, do Bills score more than 11 points? It's a joke on Twitter I made. The spread's 13.5. Do they get to even 13.5 points? That's the question.
I don't know. They don't figure out something. No. No, they're not.
Oh, man. Last week was rough.
It's been brutal.
I just had to. There has to be a little bit of a dig, as
the over-under is 47.5, something like that, according to ESPN.
Yeah, it's still super high. I don't know. You still almost have to bet that they cover the spread, but I'm not. I just feel like it's too dicey for me. Sad.
Based off the spread, I mean, they got the Bills scoring, 35 or something?
Yeah. If you break it down, somewhere in there, up in the upper 30s, but definitely could happen. I think you see a lot of Zach Moss today, even though he's coming out of concussion protocol. I think they want to come out and show that they can run the ball, especially if the Jets play like a shell. I think we might see a little bit of it. Spencer Brown's back. That should help, but,
My question with them is, I understand that they're playing that cover 2 shell and it's hard to take the deep shots, but it seems like Brian Dable doesn't even want to try to go short and underneath. He just continuously tries to run those. I think intermediate route runners in the league, and he's still just not really running those type of routes. He's still just running deeper style routes for the majority of the time, and teams are taking that away. So our offense just looks terrible because we're not putting guys where that cover 2 shells are vulnerable.
Yeah, I just also think you saw, for example, I think the ribs are hurting Beasley more than we thought. There were some plays that he was dropping that weren't his usual. You know what I mean? Usually he makes these plays and he still drops it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it should be interesting. Just had to push a little bit more fun at them for losing to the Jaguars. Nothing against the Jaguars, but
it's everything against the Jaguars.
Yeah. Everything.
It was going to get ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, it did get ugly, but just not in the right way.
You want another surprise question? I always love surprise questions.
What's up?
DeAndre Swift, what should we expect against Pittsburgh? You're going to have a mucky game up in Pittsburgh. Can we expect DeAndre Swift, no Jamal Williams again? And have Jameer Jefferson. Do we expect can Swift give us a 30-point game again, 20-point? Or do you think he's going to be in that lower teen range? Just like a safe floor for him.
I think he's got more of a safe floor, to be honest with you, but just because of the matchup. If it was anybody else, I would be a little bit more confident in him, but given the matchup, it's kind of hard to rank him or project him to be having one of those breakout games, but he gets the targets and he gets the snap share to do that, especially with Jamal Williams being out. So if that's the way they're going to try to beat the Steelers, that's how they're going to do it, is by running through him. So he'll have a ton of volume. I think you'll see probably 20-plus opportunities, but it's just a matter of –
Oh, no, keep going. Finish your sentence.
No, this question is confusing me. There's 3 people who said pick 3. Those 3.
That is fair. I think maybe it's a pun at a joke.
Maybe.
That this is the 3 that he has to start.
Maybe it went over my head.
That's where I'm going to say. But, oh, no, he said pick 2.
Pick 2.
All right, that's better. I kind of thought it was a pretty funny joke, though, to be honest. I thought he was crying because that was the 3 that he had to start, because I'm in that situation. So, Kamara and CEH on the bench, fair. Yeah, I have, enough places that I have J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Gus Edwards, all on IR. So I'm in this sad but truthful situation. For me, it's Brandon Bolden and Alex Collins. Alex Collins, I know he's been kind of down the last couple of weeks that he's had a chance to play. Penny's kind of come in and taken some away, but with Russell Wilson back, I think the offense looks a little better. Collins should get the cracks at the touchdowns first, at least in the first couple downs. Penny might come in at times, but I like Alex Collins as a pretty safe flex play this week. Then Brandon Bolden. I still am in on Brandon Bolden, even if Ramondre Stevenson is activated. They haven't, I mean, Stevenson's looked better across the season. He's definitely gotten better throughout the year. But one mess up from Stevenson and Bolden's in. Bolden should handle the third down work. I think it'll be a pretty even split. I don't know if they give Ramondre like a full run. So I think Brandon Bolden still holds some good value. How about you, Ryan?
No, I agree. I'd roll with those two as well, especially with Chris Carson being out. Green Bay hasn't been that tough in terms of running back production. I think they're I just saw it when I was right before the show. I was looking at all the ranking and things like that, and yeah, they're like middle of the road. They're like 15th in terms of running back production, and getting Russell Wilson back should open up a lot more running lanes for Alex Collins and the Seahawks running backs. So I would go with him and Bolden. We're just not sure what Benjamin's going to get in terms of production or volume. So I would go with those two as well.
I just think I like Stevenson. I think he's got a decent possible career. He's looked pretty good so far. I didn't like him too much coming out, but he definitely looks good so far. And I'm not ready to give it to him just yet. Love it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the sub. But yeah, I'm just not sold on Stevenson coming in and getting what Damian Harris was getting. You know, like I don't think, and even at that, Damian Harris wasn't seeing a ton. He was just scoring touchdowns like a fiend. So
yeah,
I am gonna say that I'm worried. I think Brandon Bolden still holds some good value this week. And I could be wrong. Ramondre Stevenson could come out there and just shred it. I just don't see it. I also don't know if he's passed concussion protocol yet. So if he doesn't, Brandon Bolden's a must start. Did he pass?
He's passed it, yeah.
Okay. I saw something earlier that said that they expect him to play, but he still had to technically pass concussion protocol. So
yeah, The thing with me is like I just don't know. Like, yeah, Ramondre is going to see probably the majority of the work, but in terms of a running defense, Cleveland's actually been pretty tough so far against the run, and their pass rush is pretty solid, to say the least. So I would expect them to have to dump off, and that's just kind of how we just know what Bill Belichick likes to do against certain defenses, and I just don't expect them to try to run the ball all that much against that front seven. But they're averaging like 37 attempts per game rushing. So even Ramondre's not going to get all 37. So you have that PPR upside with Bolden. Plus he's going to see 5 to 10 carries as well. So he's gonna be involved in multiple facets of the game. So like I said, Benjamin's just kind of no idea what he's going to do or what he's capable of doing because he didn't play it all last year. And I know he was kind of hyped up this year, but
I liked adding Benjamin. I added him in a couple spots just to see. Yep. I'm not starting him, but I added him on the basis of, maybe he gets used more than I think he's going to. I still think it's James Conner for sure in that backfield, but Benjamin could see some, and I could be wrong. I'm just not ready to throw him out there over two guys that I know will see a decent workload.
Yeah, and I have to start him in a couple leagues. So.
Yeah, if you have to. I mean, I think he could have something. I mean, if he scores a touchdown, he's valuable. You know, it's as simple as that. So, Terry McLaurin versus Tampa Bay or Debo versus the Rams. This one's pretty easy for me. I'm rolling with Debo Samuel. I know the Rams sometimes have this persona of being really tough against wide receivers, and they are. But with the way that Debo gets used, I foresee Jalen Ramsey, which is the person you're probably most worried about in the Rams' pass defense. I don't see Jalen Ramsey covering Debo Samuel. I feel like Jalen Ramsey is going to cover the guys that get out into that deeper territory of targets, which is going to be more like Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle possibly. I feel like Debo just stays in that shorter to intermediate range, and I don't see Jalen Ramsey shadowing him. I could be very wrong, but I still want Debo. He's just been too good this year. He's too explosive. Terry McLaurin with Taylor Heineke hasn't been the best. He's very boomer bust, and for the last couple of weeks, the targets are there. They're just so uncatchable and inconsistent on an accuracy level that it's hard for Terry McLaurin to make anything happen. And if that, he has one of the higher contested catch ratings. And that's not just because he's not open. It's just because he's getting double, triple covered and the throws just aren't there. So for me, in this situation, I'm out on Terry McLaurin. I'd still start him in other situations, but I'd rather have Debo. I just think the upside's much higher in the system that they're running right now. How about you, Ryan?
I'm going to go with Debo here as well. Even though I do expect him to see some of Jalen Ramsey, I wouldn't be surprised if Ramsey kind of takes some Kittle as well and Ayuk as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't lock down any one particular receiving option for the Niners. I think he's just going to kind of bounce around depending on formation. And that should be a high-scoring game as well. Rams offense has been pretty locked and loaded, so I don't expect the 49ers defense to be able to slow them down too much. And like you said with McLaurin, targets have been there, but they just haven't been accurate. I think they do get 2 offensive linemen back that they're supposed to. Washington does. They get Sam Cosme and Brandon Sheriff back. And when those 2 guys have been out is when we've seen Taylor Heineke's numbers drop dramatically. He's only completing 60% of his passes with a 3 to 6 touchdown interception ratio as opposed to 69% and 8 to 3 when those guys are in the lineup. So he could be in for a better day and could have more accurate throws this week, but against that Tampa pass rush, I wouldn't risk it. If McLaurin is your option and Debo is your other option, I would just go with Debo.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, the secondary for Tampa Bay is concerning. That's kind of their weak link. However, like you said and alluded to, it's a pass rush. Like, does Taylor Heineke have the time to step back and spread the ball to Terry McLaurin? Yeah. And then it's also just worrisome still. No Curtis Samuel. I mean, Diami Brown's been a decent fill-in, but like he just isn't. He's not drawing the coverage. You have Cam Sims there. He's not really doing a whole lot. Logan Thomas is still out. Ricky Seals-Jones has been a decent fill-in for him, a good start in fantasy as well. But he just isn't as explosive, we'll say, as Logan Thomas. He doesn't spread the field as well. And it's been tough sledding for Terry, which is sad because I thought this could have been his year. And it seems like it's going to be a season-long thing too, because the news, I tweeted it out a little earlier, like they don't expect Fitzpatrick to be back this season off of that hip injury. So it seems like it's going to be Taylor Heineke going forward. So Terry McLaurin is going to be very dicey, I think, the rest of the season as far as a start goes. I think their schedule lightens up at the back half, but as of right now, it's tough going for Terry, which is sad because I love the talent, and he's been so quarterback proof. It was surprising to me that this is what's happened,
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what his numbers are, but I would assume that if you were to go on to like Player Profiler or any advanced metric stats like that show like catchable rate or anything like that, I can almost guarantee that his numbers pretty low in terms of overall standing. So, and like you said, it's tough because he is very talented, and I am going to say that just purely based off of volume, McLaurin could have a big day, but there's also a chance that Heineke's just not able to get the ball off to him in time, and they just kind of rely on dump offs to McKissick, and even Ricky Seals-Jones might be a solid play because of that short to intermediate game that they're going to have to use in order to move the ball. So he could be in for a big game, but I'm just willing to take the upside of Debo in that offense and that role that he's had so far.
All right, Ryan, let's see here. Mason Rudolph. We'll talk about Pittsburgh for a little bit. Mason Rudolph is going to be your starter today as Ben Roethlisberger has hit the COVID list. No Juju Smith-Schuster, so you're rolling out Deontay Johnson, James Washington, no Chase Claypool. And then you have Pat Freiermuth and Eric Ebron returns. Who are we trusting today as far as starts and sits in this Pittsburgh offense? I mean, they draw Detroit, a juicy matchup, something that people were probably hoping, okay, this is going to be a big game for me, help my team. Do we still trust Deontay Johnson? Do we trust him or James Washington? Or is Pat Freiermuth as good of a start as we thought? Or do we now have to fade off of Pat Freiermuth due to a lack of possible touchdown production that won't be there because the offense might not be as good under Rudolph?
I think that when it comes to this offense, I think you're still starting Deontay. I think he's still just going to see a very large target share. But I fully expect this offense to run through Najee today. I think he's going to get upwards of 20 to 25, maybe even 30 opportunities in terms of targets and carries just because of the dump offs and just the short yardage situations that they use him in. Just looking, he's got at least 3 targets in every game so far this year. And he's had 20 plus rushing opportunities the last 4 weeks. So I would expect that to continue. I would still start Deontay. I feel like he's still just going to be the guy. Freiermuth's touchdown upside obviously drops down. So if people have somebody that might have a little bit more touchdown upside, I would be willing to sit him this week. But he still has been very, very effective in the red zone. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's still one of Mason Rudolph's favorite targets. So those are the only 3 that I'm willing to plug into my lineup if I need to. Is Najee's a must start. I think Deontay still remains in that must start category because I believe his target share will just stay up. And then Pat Freiermuth is a touchdown dependent option for tight end, but I just don't see his touchdown production being as likely as it has been recently, especially with Ebron being back.
I can agree with that. We got some questions quick. Vance Jefferson, which I think is supposed to be Van Jefferson. Jerry Jeudy or Thielen at flex?
I actually have this exact dilemma in my own league. Literally the exact same 3 people. I have them in my flex spot. I have to choose between these 3. So
we could hit a 2-for-1 here.
Could. It's literally the exact same thing. It's kind of weird that it was these 3 guys in this flex spot because it's literally exactly what I have.
It's kind of weird, but is it? Is it
a little
Ryan?
bit?
All right. So I'm not totally sold on Van Jefferson just yet, especially against the 49ers. I know they're a little bit weak in the back half of the secondary there. I just want to see what that offense looks like. I think OBJ is involved a lot more than we expect. Jerry Jeudy is the interesting play here to me. They draw Philly, which has had a good secondary this year. However, I believe Darius Slay is probably going to cover Cortland Sutton, which might make Jerry Jeudy really effective in this game, especially with how accurate Teddy Bridgewater's been. So I kind of like Jerry Jeudy here. Thielen against the Chargers, I don't love as much. The Chargers secondary is pretty good. And I think this is going to be a big Dalvin Cook game because Minnesota runs through that run game and the Chargers just love to give up yards to running backs. So Thielen, he could have a decent game. I just don't foresee it. So I kind of like Jerry Jeudy here. It's a little bit of a risk, but I think the upside could be there, especially because, like I said, I think Cortland Sutton kind of gets locked down. Tim Patrick's still questionable. He might play, but either way, I think Jerry Judy's pretty safe, as well as has a good upside because he could see the end zone at least once.
See, I don't even know what to give in terms of advice because I don't even know what I'm doing in my own lineup. But the way that I'm looking at it is that I do think OBJ does get involved quite a bit on Monday night. I think they're going to want to get him comfortable in that offense. They're going to want to. Stafford's going to love having a new toy to play with. With Robert Woods being out, obviously Cooper Kupp's going to be the guy, but I just think they're going to get OBJ involved as much as they can. Like you said, Thielen's matchup with the Chargers isn't great, but we also didn't like Devontae Smith last week, and that ended up burning me. It burned me in a couple leagues that I benched him in because I didn't like the matchup. But Judy for me is the guy I'm going to roll with. I think he's been dominant in one-on-one coverage. I saw a stat. I can't remember where it was on Twitter, but that he's winning on over 65, 62% of his routes on one-on-one coverage. And the Eagles' outside corners have been solid. Darius Slay and company, they've been solid on outside corners, but they've been funneling production into the slot role, and that's where Jerry Jeudy plays with Tim Patrick and Sutton being on the outside. So I'm going to roll with Jeudy. I think especially if this is PPR, I just think he has the matchup mismatch there, and it could be a lower scoring game, but I expect Jeudy to be heavily involved. Sutton's been relatively ineffective with Jeudy in the lineup. Teddy Bridgewater seems to really like Jerry Jeudy. Even coming off the injury 2 weeks ago, he saw 4 targets right away, and then last week he jumped back up to 8, which he saw 7 in the first game in week 1. So I would expect him to see the 7 to 8, maybe even double-digit targets this week. And like you said,
the Eagles average over 40 points to wide receivers right now in PPR. Yeah. So I'm in on Jerry Jeudy, JM. Shia, Ayuk, Jeudy, or Sanders? Seems like we got a lot of Jeudy questions. I see in the head of it. I'm still on Jerry Jeudy here. I like him this week. I think he could be a good option. Teddy Bridgewater favors him. He's now a couple weeks removed from that injury, return date. So I feel like it's just going to get better here for Jerry Jeudy. And like we alluded to, Philadelphia is not as good against wide receivers as it would seem. Darius Slay is very good. I think he ends up on Cortland Sutton, and they move Jerry Jeudy around. I'm not ready to trust Emmanuel Sanders yet in the Bills offense to giving you a huge output. And Brandon Ayuk is another one. I think he might end up drawing a lot more Jalen Ramsey than Deebo Samuel just based on alignments and the way that the routes are ran. So I like Jerry Jeudy. Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Jeudy here too. I'm not willing to trust Ayuk yet just because of what we saw last year and in terms of what they did with that lineup when all 3 of those guys were active and playing and fully healthy. Ayuk's production dropped off significantly when all 3 of those guys were in the lineup together. I'm referring to Ayuk and Deebo and Kittle all being in the lineup. And then, like you said, Emmanuel Sanders looked like he was well on his way to a wide receiver 2 type season, but now that offense has kind of been bottled up lately, and I'm not willing to start him over a guy like Jeudy when we just haven't seen that production lately. I mean, Sanders could have a huge game. All it really takes is one deep ball from Josh to break him open for a long touchdown. But I'm just willing to take the safer guy in Jeudy, who has just as much upside as Sanders does.
Love it. Russell Gage or Amari Cooper for Bob Wart here. Is it set? I'm rolling Amari Cooper. I get it. Russell Gage had a pretty good game against New Orleans last week. And in theory, surprisingly, I think Dallas is Atlanta has the better matchup against Dallas than Dallas does against Atlanta. What are you playing over there?
I don't know what's happening right now. One of my things has just popped up. It just started playing a random ad. I'm sorry.
Oh, it does that. Are you on ESPN? If you're on an ESPN site, ESPN does that to me all the time. all the time.
Oh,
They're just sitting here all of a sudden blaring music, and I don't know where it's coming from.
God, what the?
But
My bad.
Bob, I'm still rolling out Amari Cooper. Too good not to trust against a guy that's just a guy that might have a big week. Could also have a 0. He's burned me multiple times. So, Brian.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where it's like, don't get cute. You know what I mean? Where Amari Cooper is a established, bona fide wide receiver 2, basically locked into that wide receiver 2 role every single year. And I mean, they're playing each other, so I guess you kind of just they're both solid matchups for wide receivers, but I'm just gonna take the guy that's more talented and more likely to put up points on a better offense. So I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper.
Like it. Clamped EZ has Keenan or CeeDee Lamb. This is a juicy one. I am going to say Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen has a pretty big game against Minnesota tonight. CeeDee Lamb, they get Gallup back, Amari Cooper, and Atlanta isn't terrible against the pass. I mean, they're not great, but they're not terrible. So I'm going to take Keenan Allen. I just think the upside's a little bit bigger. It's kind of favored towards him in the target share as of late, and I don't see that changing this week. So how about you, Ryan?
I'm going to go with Keenan here as well, and it's strictly because of the matchup that CD is expected to have. AJ Terrell has been one of the better cornerbacks in the league so far this year. He hasn't been giving up a ton to wide receivers, which oddly enough, he isn't considered their cornerback 1. He just has not been giving up a lot of production. So CD is still in the wide receiver 2 range, but I feel like he's more of a lower end wide receiver 2 this week. And Keenan Allen going against Minnesota, who does not have a very good secondary. I feel like his upside is just too high, and especially in PPR, he's going to see a ton of targets. He's going to be heavily involved, so I would roll with him as well.
Love it. Aaron, thanks for the sub, and appreciate the kind words. We look forward to helping you in the future. Wesley, full PPR, Jerry Jeudy or Mark Ingram at flex, also Dak or Stafford. I'm in on Dak over Stafford this week. I have Dak as a top 5 quarterback this week against the Atlanta secondary and defense. So I have them right next to each other. It's basically Dak's at 4 and Stafford's at 5, so you really can't go wrong. I could be wrong, though. But I just think that against Atlanta, I like Dak kind of in a little bit of a get-right game for Dallas. And I'm going to take Jeudy in your flex. I feel like he has a little bit more upside than Mark Ingram. I do like Mark Ingram, though, so if Ryan wants to go the other way, I could understand it. Or if you, Wesley, want to go the other way. I like Mark Ingram in a full workload against a not-so-great Tennessee defense that I think New Orleans can move the ball against. So I prefer, though, Jeudy and Dak. Brian?
So as I was thinking about this, I was going to lean Dak here, but I'm going to go with Stafford, and it's only because of a stat that I saw from – I can't remember where I saw it from. It might have been on ESPN, but I have it here in my notes that I have for the show that the Niners defense is extremely solid, but the Rams run the most empty formations in the league, and in empty formations, the Niners are 30th in QBR allowed and 31st in yards allowed per attempt when they go in empty sets. So with the weapons that Stafford has, I think that they will be able to take advantage of that weakness when they go empty. And I feel like Stafford's just in for a big game. I know it's a Monday night game. He's going to be – he always seems to perform well in primetime, at least from what I can remember. I don't really recall him having a really dud week in terms of primetime games. So I'm going to roll with Stafford there. And then Ingram and Judy is super, super interesting because, I mean, we saw Ingram be effective in Houston and where he was RB2, RB3 viable. And going against a rush defense in Tennessee that hasn't been great year long, I'm gonna have to go with him. I love Judy. I love the upside that he possesses, but I think that's just how New Orleans is going to want to attack that defense is by running, and Ingram's going to see, like you said, a full workload. They're going to be missing C.J. Gardner, or I'm sorry, Titans defense is missing Rashaan Evans. He's questionable. So if he's out, it definitely helps. He's been solid in their run stopping game. So I would go with Mark Ingram.
And that's fair. Like I said, it's really a coin flip for me between Ingram and Judy. I like what Ingram could bring, especially with Trevor Siemian. I mean, he's not going to scramble, so you get those checkdowns. So I don't hate it. You know, I feel like you're in a good situation, Wesley. I think all four of these guys have a good day. So it's just kind of deciding where you trust it. Ingram definitely has a safer floor too. So if you want to chase that floor to upside scale, Ingram probably has a safer floor than Judy, as well as a close to similar upside. So I can see it. So we got Brandon Bolden here, OBJ or Ertz in the flex, extra half PPR for tight end. Ooh, nice bonus there. I saw something just a little bit ago on Twitter. I don't think Murray's playing. I think it's going to be Colt McCoy again against Carolina. Also, no DeAndre Hopkins, most likely. So, I'm going to go with OBJ. I'm going to risk it. I think OBJ could have a big game. I think they're going to want to show off their new shiny toy on Monday Night Football. Prove that Cleveland was using him wrong. I don't know, something, just a little extra jabs that they can get in there. But I don't mind Ertz. I just don't know if the volume's going to be there. In the passing game, I think you see a lot of James. So I'm a little. But Carolina's not. I don't think they're that great against tight ends. I would think, if anything, Ertz is probably going to see a decent volume because Gilmore's probably going to cover AJ Green / Christian Kirk. So, but I'm going to jump the upside on OBJ. How about you, Ryan?
The extra half PPR is what kind of throws me off for Ertz because he's seen a steady target volume even with Colt McCoy being in there.
Yeah, that's what was making it tough for me, honestly.
And with no DeAndre Hopkins, and like you said, Stephon Gilmore's a tough corner. Their corners in general, their defense in general, has been solid against wide receivers all year.
Yeah, and I think he's still questionable, but I think I saw that he's expected not to play. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Murray or Hopkins have been ruled out yet. I think they're both still questionable, but expected not to play. That's where I think that they're at.
From the last report that I saw, was that they're going to be in the same situation as they were last week, where it comes down to the wire, but they're pessimistic that both of those guys will be able to go. So, but see, also, I feel like Brandon Bolden gets a ton of opportunities this week too. And it just, man, that one's tough. I think I'm going to go with Brandon Bolden here.
Ooh, spicy.
Just because like you said, I do feel like they're going to use OBJ. I really do. and the upside is there if he can be what he was before. I'm just not sure on a brand new team that I can trust him given what we saw so far this year. Because if he is what we saw in Cleveland in terms of production, then he's not. You shouldn't be starting him over Brandon Bolden this week, who could see a ton of targets against Cleveland's pass rush. So
we've all seen the clips of a wide open OBJ at the 50
oh yeah,
yard line.
I've seen it. I have seen it. But
Just
OBJ
saying.
also doesn't have Cooper Kupp in Cleveland.
He had Jarvis Landry. Yeah.
He also doesn't have. He has Darrell Henderson, who sees receiving work. Nick Chubb does not see much receiving work.
Yeah, because Kareem Hunt didn't exist.
Yeah, but Kareem Hunt hasn't played in 4 weeks, 3 weeks.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Whatever.
I'm just not sure I'm willing to take the gamble on a new team, new system. Like I said, OBJ very well could see a ton of targets just because they want to show off a new toy, and he could be upset and come out and play angry and just tear them up.
Completely aside from the start sit thing here for Mari, I hope he blows up because on Monday night I'm just going to text you and be like, "Yep," just for pure, just not to be right, just to be a pure spite. But I get it. Bolden should see a good target. I should see a good opportunity share. So I can see the path to where you want to go there, and I could agree with it. I'm worth risking OBJ over starting Brandon Bolden. That's how I feel.
And that's fair.
Sit one full PPR. So he's got Godwin, Deontay, Terry, Debo. Brady is your quarterback. I'm sitting Scary Terry. I know Godwin's got the injury that could be something that lingers, and it could see him exit the game a little early. But the upside with the stack there and Brady and Godwin is too good, especially against a weak Washington secondary. So I like that. Sitting Terry McLaurin just because of what we alluded to a little bit earlier in the show is the inaccuracy from Taylor Heineke, the worry that, yes, his offensive line is getting a couple pieces back, but that front seven is so vaunted there in Tampa Bay that it's concerning to me that the targets won't be necessarily accurate for Terry McLaurin again this week. So there's a path that Terry could blow up. So if you want to risk it and sit Godwin because of the injury concern, I can see that path. But I prefer to start the better player, in my opinion. Terry's a great player, but I think Godwin's a much better wide receiver, and I would rather start him. I think Debo against the Rams is a safe play. I just feel like the way that they're going to play, Debo is still going to be heavily used, and Deontay should still see a ton of target share in a full PPR. He is a must start for me, even with Mason Rudolph. Brian?
Yeah, I'm sitting Terry here as well. I'm not sitting Godwin. I'm pretty sure he had the same injury lingering last week, and he had 12 targets against New Orleans, or 2 weeks ago. Sorry. He's seen at least 11 targets in 3 of the last 4. So I'm starting him. Same with Deontay. He's seen 13 targets in 3 of the last 5. So I'm definitely starting those guys. Upside of Debo is too high in what should be a high scoring game against the Rams, and like we've already touched on Terry having the issues that he may have this week. So I would sit Terry as well.
I like it. Mari, thanks for going through the struggle with me. Much appreciated. Anytime, feel free to stop back in. All right, where were we? I lost my spot now. Shoot. All right, here we are.
Right there.
Prediction for Deontay Harris versus Tennessee. I actually kind of like Deontay Harris this week. I actually had him in my yards per start sit article. I kind of usually try to find a little bit of like the not so obvious guys. I like Deontay Harris. He's seen a decent target share, especially with Trevor Siemian. Tennessee's secondary's been pretty weak. He's definitely a big boomer bust. It's a big risk to plug him in your lineup. But I do like. I think he has a decent upside against this weak Tennessee defense. How about you, Ryan?
I like him this week too. I was reading. I actually did read your article. Wasn't very good, but
yeah, it's all right. Not much is.
No, I'm just kidding. But Deontay has seen either 7+ targets or has scored a touchdown in 5 games so far this year. And going against Tennessee, who's giving up the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers as well as the most receptions, I'm perfectly fine with starting him. He's probably more of like a flex play with upside, but I think he's very viable. Although I am curious to see if they implement Taysom Hill a little bit more this week, especially with Alvin Kamara being out. I wouldn't be surprised if they see him get some extra package work. So that's the only thing that I'd be a little concerned about. But overall, I feel like he's a fine flex play.
Like it. The chosen rose. Would you start Pat Freiermuth now with Rudolph in at quarterback, or would you play Tyler Higbee? Ryan?
Oh, you gotta come to me with this one first. I think I'm going to roll with a touchdown upside of Freiermuth, to be honest. 49ers have been really, really tough against tight ends the last 5 weeks or so. I think they're like third fewest allowed in PPR to tight ends the last 5 weeks since week 4. So I'm going to roll with Freiermuth. I feel like he has less options to compete with, and I feel like he'll be one of the 3 main targets that Mason Rudolph's going to target. And Higbee's solid, but he has OBJ and Henderson and Kupp, who sees a ton of targets. So I would roll with the touchdown upside of Freiermuth.
I agree. Tyler Higbee's kind of been. I mean, it's tough now without Robert Woods. I was projecting OBJ to be there, and having Robert Woods and everything, I didn't love Tyler Higbee on the way out. But
he saw 10 targets last week. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
I kind of feel like I'm going to Tyler Higbee here just because I feel like the offense is to full power. Matt Stafford's much better than Mason Rudolph. And I worry that Mason Rudolph might. I honestly have the Lions winning this game. I think the Lions get their first win. I don't trust Mason Rudolph enough to move the offense down the field to where they're going to be throwing to Pat Freiermuth in the end zone. I feel like once they get close, they're just going to be like, all right, let's take the threat out of Mason's hands and let's hand it off to Najee, or let's just run little screens or something to Deontay. So I would make this move. I know Freiermuth's been really good the last couple of weeks, but Ben Roethlisberger to Mason Rudolph is a big drop, in my opinion, as far as just decision-making and overall talent. So for me, I'm going to Tyler Higbee here. I do like Freiermuth, and I could understand why, because he's been so good. Why you still want to start him, but I just feel like Tyler Higbee seems safer to me.
You don't trust what you saw last year from Mason Rudolph in Week 17?
Don't even get me started with Mason Rudolph. We're not going to do it.
You don't remember? You don't remember what he did last year?
I don't care. I don't.
You should care. He's pretty solid.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
22 of 39, 315, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They also has start 2 Emmanuel Sanders, Christian Kirk, Jerry Jeudy, Hunter Renfrow, and Russell Gage. Jerry Jeudy for me is a must start in my opinion of this list. Then the second one, I would probably roll out Hunter Renfrow. Especially if it's full PPR, I'm taking Hunter Renfrow. I know Kirk had a decent week still with Colt McCoy last week, but if Colt McCoy plays, it makes it just a little bit more dicey for me with Christian Kirk. Russell Gage, I'm not ready to trust amongst these wide receivers. I would start Russell Gage in certain situations, but not with this culmination here. I want Jerry Jeudy and Hunter Renfrow, I think. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think Hunter Renfrow's in for a big week this week. Derek Carr's still been effective throwing the ball, even with the issues that they've had in the organization. And then going against Kansas City in what should be a high-scoring game and a bad secondary, I'm going to go with Renfrow there. And then Jerry Jeudy, like you said, I feel like he's a must-start for me, given how Philadelphia really funnels their wide receiver production to the slot receivers. Emmanuel Sanders has huge upside if they can get on target, but I'm just not trusting it. Christian Kirk against the Panthers, they're 4th best against wide receivers the last 6 weeks. And Russell Gage, you're not really sure who it's going to be. It could be a huge all Kyle Pitts game. It could be Omai Zacchaeus again. So you just don't really know what that offense is going to look like. Could be a huge Cordell Patterson game. It's too dicey for me to start Gage over guys like Judy and Renfro.
I like it. I like it a lot. We also have Nick Folk or Young Ho Koo. Kicker question. I'm taking Koo on the basis that I think that game might end up being a little bit more high scoring. It's also in a dome, safer for kickers. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, same thing.
We have Van Jefferson or Emmanuel Sanders. Ooh, this is juicy. Very similar players, you know. They're both kind of like who's going to catch that deep ball touchdown, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take Emmanuel Sanders. I think maybe the Bills get to that get right game. They're going to be kind of peeved that they only put up 6 points against Jacksonville, against a division opponent that they probably want to bury. And they tend to play pretty well going to MetLife the last couple of years. So I'm going to take Emmanuel Sanders. I think you might see a touchdown out of him today. It's tough, though. I like Van Jefferson this week, too. But I think I'm going to roll with Sanders.
I feel like Jefferson's safer just because of the target share that he's seen, and it should remain relatively the same because now OBJ's in, but Robert Woods is now unfortunately out. So his target share should stay pretty consistent. But in this scenario, I feel like I would take the upside that comes with a potential big game from Sanders. I feel like he's kind of due for a big game. He hasn't had one of those really huge games since week 5 against Kansas City. And last week he saw 8 targets against Jacksonville. They just weren't able to hit on a lot of their throws. He still averages over like 16, 17 yards per catch. So I'm going to take the upside of Sanders over Jefferson this week.
I like it. Should I start James Robinson or is he too risky? I'd start him. I think if he's healthy, it sounds like it's a pain management thing for James Robinson from what I've read. So if he's active, I expect him to see a full workload aside from a re-aggravation maybe. But against Indianapolis, they're going to kind of have to run the ball a little bit, kind of keep that game down. So, and the offense just looked bad against the Bills without James Robinson in there. They need James Robinson to get going to help open up that play action pass, help Trevor Lawrence get a couple extra seconds to process that defense as a rookie quarterback. So if he's active, I'm firing up James Robinson. I just feel like you can't not. I guess you could, if you want AFZ chips, if you would like to send us who else your other options are. Maybe that would lean us a different direction. But I feel like just James Robinson's too good at this moment to not start if he's active. Do you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, for me, it just depends on what the other options are. Like you said, in a matchup with Indy, they're gonna need him to play. They're still saying he's a game time call, so should be hearing about within the next hour or so. But it really depends on what your options are. If you have like lower tier guys, maybe like an Eno Benjamin that you picked up or something like that, I'm still starting James Robinson, but it really just depends on what your options are to play in this place.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't mean to click that, but I'm trying to scroll.
Oh, he has AVS chips. Other options are other option are Pollard. I'm probably rolling James Robinson. I don't mind Tony Pollard against Atlanta. I just still feel like Zeke's a big part of that offense as far as the important touches go. Near the red zone, it seems like they favor Zeke just because of the overall size and running back style that he runs. So I think James Robinson is just too. He's the guy there if he's healthy. So
yeah, I'm gonna stick with him as well.
yeah, that's so roll. McKissick, Bolden, or Gibson pick 2. Ooh, this is dicey.
Jeez.
Me and Ryan, were we on air? I don't know. We might not have been on air. I think it was before we got on, but I was at a point of just being like, I can't believe I'm sitting Antonio Gibson over Brandon Bolden this week. So if that leads you to where I'm going with this, I'm probably honestly rolling out J.D. McKissick and Brandon Bolden. Yeah. I love Antonio Gibson. The talent's there. It's true that like one play and he's gone. And that's the tough thing with sitting him is that he could take a 75-yard screen pass for a touchdown. So
looking at you, Buffalo.
It's tough to sit him. But I just feel like J.D. McKissick sees a lot of PPR volume this week. Tampa Bay is really bad they're good against the run, but they give up a lot of passing volume to running backs. And that's where I think J.D. McKissick sees that, especially with that front seven. There's going to be a lot of pressure, some pretty easy dump-offs. And then Brandon Bolden, to me, I think Brandon Bolden and Ramondre Stevenson see a pretty even split. I don't think they just say, here you go, because they didn't love Ramondre Stevenson to begin with at the beginning of the year. They've been using him more. He's gotten better. I'm not saying he's bad now, but it's just been a season-long thing, and I think that they're still playing it out. I saw a thing on Twitter that just blanked. Offensive coordinator McDaniels for Patriots. Is it McDaniels? Yeah, right. I think it is.
Yeah.
McDaniels had said that they're still tinkering with it. You don't know what we're gonna get, and I like Brandon Bolden a little bit better than Ramondre Stevenson this week. So if you're willing to risk it with Antonio Gibson, he could pay off. Like I said, I mean, all it takes is one play for him to get loose, and you're going to get a touchdown most likely out of it. So, and if it was my choice, I would almost play Gibson over Bolden. No matter what I'm playing McKissick, I feel like the volume's going to be there in PPR. So, how about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm playing McKissick this week against Tampa. They, like you said, they do give up a lot of running back targets and receptions. And McKissick's seen at least 4 targets in all but 2 games so far this year, including 10 against Kansas City a couple weeks ago. And then he had 10, 6, and 8 in 3 straight weeks before the bye. So I'm going to roll McKissick. And I'm not sure you're willing to start both running backs against Tampa Bay.
That's what I mean. It's tough to start both of them, but like I could see just because of the talent Gibson possesses, starting him over Bolden. But continue.
My thing is like at this point in the season, I need to see him be better than what he's been, especially the last 3 weeks. He's had 2 really big games, and in both of those games he scored at least 1 touchdown. So you're kind of banking on if he scores a touchdown, he's fine. But lately he hasn't seen the volume or the snap share to be more than a touchdown dependent option. And like you said, with Ramondre Stevenson being active, I'm not really sure that they just say, here's 20 carries for you. So I feel like Bolden's just going to be more involved in terms of carries and receiving work, as opposed to Gibson, who's going to give up most of the receiving work to McKissick. So that's why I'm leaning towards Bolden. If Gibson goes off this week against Tampa, then you might be a little bit more comfortable starting him moving forward. But even next week they play Carolina, who is also tough on defense. So if he gets through these next 2 weeks and proves that he's back, I think I'm back to starting him. But For right now, I feel like I just can't trust him to get the workload that he needs to be effective.
Agree with everything you just said. Mike has Michael Carter or Jordan Howard. I'm going to take Michael Carter. I know it's a tough matchup against the Bills, but they've kind of been a little bit leaky as of late. And I think the PPR upside's there with Michael Carter. Jordan Howard, to me, is a touchdown-dependent guy, and I don't know who it's going to be this week. Is it going to be Jordan Howard? Is it going to be Boston Scott? Does Kenny Gainwell finally get used? It's just too much of up in the air there. The Jets have kind of made it clear that it's Michael Carter and Ty Johnson, so I like Michael Carter. Ryan?
Yeah, I like Michael Carter here as well. Jordan Howard's seen a ton of volume last couple weeks, but I still feel like he's very touchdown dependent. And Michael Carter is going to see a decent amount of work in the receiving game. I know Mike White leads the league in passes to running backs since he became the starter, which is only like 1 or 2 games, but he still has the most targets to running backs when he's playing. And Michael Carter saw 8 and 9 targets the 2 games that White did start. So I would go with Carter, even though, like you said, Buffalo's a tough matchup, but they should, very big should, be playing from behind in this one. And given how Buffalo's defense has been, I would bet that they're going to be throwing a lot to Michael Carter and Ty Johnson, and I'm going to roll with Michael Carter there.
Mike White or Zach Wilson? Who has a better career? I'm a funny guy.
Come on,
funny
man.
Guy. To help, who was it? Sorry. AHAF. Justin took the over on 3.5 catches today for J.D. McKissick. Justin is a respected analyst in my minds, and I agree. I think McKissick has a big day, so if that gives you some extra confidence starting J.D. McKissick. AFZ also, I traded Zeke and Higgins for Keenan and James Robinson. Is it a win or a loss? I guess it would depend if this is dynasty or redraft for me. There's a little bit difference in value. I like it. James Robinson has a fluffy schedule in the back half of the season that should possibly make him a league winner again for 2 seasons in a row. And Keenan Allen is just kind of returned to Keenan Allen. It seems like he's getting the targets more than Mike Williams, and I like it. T. Higgins is kind of on a rise a little bit, but Jamar Chase still worries me. There's still Tyler Boyd. It's still Joe Burrow, and there's just a little bit more worry there than there is with Keenan for me with that. And then the drop off from James Robinson to Zeke isn't that far, in my opinion, at the moment. Zeke's pretty banged up, it seems like, and he's kind of been in and out of the lineup. So not necessarily weekly, but within the process of the game script, Tony Pollard's getting used a little bit more. So I like it. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that's a W. Losing Zeke in that volume might hurt, but James Robinson has been, when he's healthy, he's seeing just as large of a volume share as Zeke is, and he's more used in the offense in terms of like what other options they have to do. There could be weeks where Zeke is just not really involved because their offense has to throw a ton, and Zeke isn't seeing too many targets so far this year, if I can remember correctly. I feel like James Robinson is just more involved in the general scheme of things, like the natural flow of the game. He's just more involved on a week-to-week basis. And then Keenan Allen's a relatively large upgrade for me from T. Higgins in terms of rest of season value. So, yeah, I like it.
I like it. Ryan, we have a Twitter question.
Okay.
It's a defensive question.
Tennessee.
Oh, let's get rid of this. Tennessee or the Rams D?
Ooh.
I wonder if this works, actually. Let me try something. You think about it.
with how Tennessee's defense has played as of late.
Look at that. See, look at that. So smart.
Oh, there you go. With how Tennessee's defense has played as of late, got 5 interceptions the last 3 weeks, forcing turnovers. Saw 5 sacks last week against the Rams. I'm willing to start them against New Orleans as opposed to starting the Rams D, who's probably better on paper, but they also face a much more explosive offense, in my opinion, than the Niners. So I would roll with Tennessee's defense given how they've played lately.
And I'm going to agree with you. I think for me, defenses, I always target into like how they're playing, obviously, is a big factor, but like who are they playing? What's the situation of the team that they're playing? And to me, the 49ers look a little bit more put together than the New Orleans Saints at the moment. New Orleans Saints are going to be missing Alvin Kamara. They really only have Mark Ingram. After that, they have what's Dwayne Washington, I think is his name. I'm not 100% sure. I know it's Washington, but I don't know the first name. Is their second running back at the moment. So if something was to happen to Ingram, that's going to be a big drop off. Then you're rolling with Deontay Harris, Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, a lot of guys that are somewhatly proven, but not very well, as well as a starting quarterback in Trevor Siemian. So for me, the opportunity for Tennessee to have the bigger game is there. So I'm going to take Tennessee as well. The Rams defense is a better defense, but the 49ers are all healthy pretty much. Their team's back intact, and I just think that Shanahan's going to have a better opportunity to put up points on a Monday Night Football game against the Rams than what New Orleans is going to do against Tennessee. I could see Tennessee having a couple interceptions in this game. I could see Tennessee having a fumble recovery. I could see them getting multiple sacks. So for me, those are where the points are coming in. So I'm taking Tennessee as well. So I like it. I like it. I don't like Tennessee because they're ahead of the Bills, but we'll get to that later. Pick 2, PPR, Russell Gage, Van Jefferson, and Tyler Johnson. With Godwin being active, it's a pretty easy answer here for me and Glorious P. I'm going to take Gage and Jefferson just because the upside is much bigger for both of those guys, as well as they should see a better chance to hit that upside. There's going to be more opportunities for the both of them than Tyler Johnson will have with Godwin active. Evans is still there. The slew of tight ends that they have. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. If for some reason Godwin gets ruled out come game time, I would roll with Tyler Johnson. But if he's active, I am taking Gage and Van Jefferson as well.
Yeah, I love Tyler Johnson as a dynasty asset or somebody possibly in the future that could see something. I liked him a lot coming out of college. It's just right now he's very dependent on injuries. And I know Antonio Brown's not there, but I still feel like it's going to be Godwin and Mike Evans who see the big workload there. All right, Ryan. More spontaneous questions for you to answer because I love surprising you. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun when it's surprising,
No, it's not.
Well, not for you, but for me it is. It's snowing in Green Bay. There is snow on the ground. Are we limiting?
On the ground. Actually on the ground.
Oh yeah, it's you should see the videos. Go on if you can get on Twitter. You should see the reports right now. Or if you can watch it. Oh, I'm not watching Game Day Morning. That's why everything feels off right now. Shoot, just realized that. That's why everything's wrong. And it's upstairs. I can't even go get it. Anyways, back to the question. It's snowing. Are we limiting any expectations here for, say, Russell Wilson coming off a finger injury? Should we expect a limited Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf or Gerald Everett if we're starting these guys due to the finger injury and now what looks like it's going to be a snowy game?
Well, just I'm looking at the Lambeau Field, Green Bay, Wisconsin weather alert here. It's not supposed to be snowing at game time. Precipitation percentage is pretty low, but they're currently in a winter weather advisory as of right now. I'm just looking at the overall aspect of things. They're supposed to see one.
You answer the question about the
They're
snow.
supposed to see
I'll
1 to
find
2
it.
inches of snow. I don't know how many inches have fallen already, but they're supposed to see 1 to 2 inches. It's supposed to be pretty slippery conditions, but I think that game is still pretty high scoring. I wouldn't expect Russell to come back and play knowing the risk if he wasn't completely healthy. So that's just where I'm at. Yeah, see, that's not much. That's whatever. That's whatever.
Snow, Ryan. That is snow. See it?
It is snow, but it's not supposed to be
Snow.
snowing come game time.
Snow. You know, whatever, Ryan. So you're not expecting any downtick or limitations. We should expect what we would expect from like a DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. We shouldn't see there any hindrance due to weather. You think?
I don't think so. Just if I'm going based off of what is being reported by the MSN weather here that I have pulled up, I don't expect them to be much different. If the weather holds true where it's not snowing anymore and they just get the field cleaned up and everything like that, I wouldn't expect it to be too big of a difference.
Interesting. Fair. I could see that. I mean, to me, I feel like I'm a little worried though with Russell Wilson coming back with that finger. It does worry me a little bit. Still
Now,
starting those guys, but I'm a little worried.
The thing I didn't think about though was he had surgery on that finger, right? Like he had to have like
pins and stuff taken out.
He what?
He had pins and stuff in it.
So the cold will affect that, like
a little bit. I have metal in my leg. It doesn't affect it that bad.
That's in your
I'm not
leg.
A professional athlete.
That's in your leg. That's not an exposed part of your body at any given time.
Yeah. Anyway, my leg is exposed. It's not like my leg's an internal body part.
Well, is it exposed to the cold though? Like, do you have something covering it at all times in the snow?
No, I'm one of those cool people that wear shorts in the snow, right?
Oh,
yeah, I guess.
No, you're one of those kids.
Whatever.
Anyways, it's your hand where there's not a lot of fatty tissue or anything like that. Not a lot of muscle there. It's gonna affect him a little bit in terms of pain, and as long as he can maintain that, I think he'll be fine.
All right, fair. Mark Ingram or Mike Carter? Ooh. Bennett, if you are still with us, PPR or non-PPR? That would affect it here, I think, for me a little bit, because it's pretty much a coin flip to me. It's probably. I feel like they're very close. I think both have a similar upside. Both could see the end zone. Both are going to see a decent amount of dump downs. Both could be playing from behind, so they're very similar. Half PPR. Both have backup quarterbacks. Wow, these guys are really similar. I'm going to take Michael Carter, and this is why. The Bills are missing Tremaine Edmonds this week, so now it's a lot on Matt Milano. The fill-in linebackers for the Bills are kind of slow. They're not great. And I think Michael Carter actually might have a chance. The Bills have also been a little bit weaker against the run. In the beginning of the season, they were the top defense in points given up to running backs. They've kind of slipped back into the middle of the pack. So I'm going to take Michael Carter. I think he has the opportunity in a home game to see a higher upside than Mark Ingram here. But I do like both. How about you, Ryan?
Well, first off, I want to know what stat you're looking at that says they slipped in the middle of the pack in running back production. So everything I see,
Pro Football Reference,
everything that I've seen from lineups has them in the top 5 from every week forward going through to this. From week 6 on, they've been number 6 in terms of running back production or fantasy production to running back. But Tremaine Edmonds does affect that a little bit. I'm going to go with Mark Ingram here. I just feel like he has a huge workload today. And going against a defense that has had trouble stopping the run. I feel like they're just going to have to lean on him quite a bit because they don't really have anybody else behind him to take that work away from him. So,
yeah,
I like the touchdown upside of Mark Ingram. I do like Michael Carter in full PPR, but with it being half, I feel like Mark Ingram does see some targets, and I just like his touchdown upside more than Michael Carter's today.
Yeah, Pro Football Reference is ooh, ha ha.
What?
I see what happened here. The classic. Never mind. Don't mind me. Wrong year. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Flex full PPR. Van Jefferson, Tony Pollard, Rondell Moore, Eno Benjamin, or Jameer Jefferson. Need one. Trying to make up for Gesicki's goose egg. Dom, I'm in many situations like that because Mike Gesicki has burned me for a second week. Still not getting over it. Anyways.
7 targets, no
Ryan,
point.
just quiet. Okay,
I have him starting in like 3 leagues at least.
It was rough. He just when you think you can trust him, and then they're like, "Oh, Jacoby Brissett's playing," and you're like, "Oh, Jacoby Brissett loves Mike Gesicki," and then he gives me a 0. All right.
He did love him. He saw 7 targets. I'm pretty sure he led the team in targets.
Whatever, same difference. Still hate him. Still pissed.
He was just horrible.
I'm going to chase the upside in Van Jefferson then. If you're really looking for that, you're trying to make up for that. It's either Van Jefferson or Rondell Moore here for me. Both have extreme upside. I'm going to take Van Jefferson on the chance that he sees more work than OBJ because OBJ is new to the offense. I don't necessarily foresee that happening, but it could happen this week. So I'm going to chase Van Jefferson on a deep touchdown pass from Matt Stafford. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, you need the upside. So Rondell Moore is interesting just because of how they want to get him the ball. Like they use him in multiple ways, and they get him the ball in creative ways. And against a tough Carolina defense, I feel like they might have to do that a little bit more today. But so it does come down to those two for me as well. I think I'm going to go with Rondell Moore. I think I'm going to chase the huge upside that he has. And because, I mean, he could have a Minnesota Week 2 game where he goes 7 for 114 and a touchdown and completely makes up for what Gesicki did to on Thursday. So I'm going to – and obviously that was with Kyler Murray at quarterback, and it's not Kyler Murray at quarterback today as far as we know. But for me, that upside for – that type of upside is there for Moore, and it's not necessarily there for Jefferson. So Jefferson's a safer play, but I feel like having that goose egg, I would chase the 30-point upside that Rondell Moore possesses.
Yeah, and I like that. And Dom's obviously on your payroll because she also says that the cold does affect the finger. All right, I see how this is going. I see how this is gonna go.
It's a finger, man. It's gonna affect it.
I see. Bennett Griffin also has I could play Carter and Ingram over Thielen. How do you feel about that, Ryan? No? All right, fair. Yeah, I agree. I think Carter and Ingram are pretty even, but I think the upside in Thielen's a lot better than what Carter and Ingram will give you. So I'm probably still holding Thielen in there. Just in case that game does turn into a shootout, Thielen could definitely see 1 or 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to stick with that. Van Jefferson, Christian Kirk, Cole Beasley, or Elijah Moore. Oof. This is tough, man. I really want to start. I do have Elijah Moore starting in one spot that I had a goose egg from Mike Gesicki chasing the upside. The Bills are really good against the pass right now, but so there's a concern there. But Elijah Moore's also seen 10, 13, and then 25 points in PPR leagues. So it just seems like he's been pretty safe lately. And I personally feel like I'm chasing Elijah Moore here. I know it's a risky, especially playing the Bills defense, but I think I'm chasing Elijah Moore just for
Even
an upside play.
even with Davis coming back?
Yeah, I think that helps, honestly. I think that I just feel like that's fair. That could actually hurt, but depending on how they play it.
It's just with what we've seen. The only reason why I'm concerned about Moore is just because how he looked when Davis has been in the lineup. That's the only reason why I'm kind of.
Yeah.
But
Is
Mike
Davis
White is a
playing?
different quarterback, so I don't know if he's going to target Corey Davis like that or if he's going to continue to dump underneath to Elijah Moore since he has Corey Davis there now.
That is a fair concern. All right, who are you taking, Ryan?
I'm taking Cole Beasley here. Last 2 weeks, leads league in catches, seen at least 11 targets the last 2 games.
Probably leads it in drops too. Dick.
Hey, if he already leads league,
I'm joking, guys.
if he already leads league in catches and he leads league in drops, he should be even better. So I'm gonna roll with Beasley there.
Yeah, I like that too. I think you're in a good situation here between Kirk, Beasley, and Moore. I think Jefferson's definitely a sit for me amongst this group. And Corey Davis is a good point. I keep forgetting that Corey Davis wasn't playing because that's how effective he's been all year. But no, Cole Beasley might be a safer play. Beasley probably is a safer with equal ceiling play. So I kind of like that, Ryan. I think you swayed me a little bit. So I feel like it's between me, it's Cole Beasley or Elijah Moore with a coin flip. And Ryan, obviously, you like Beasley. So.
Yeah.
Ruxy has Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, or Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk questions. Remember when we all thought Christian Kirk was dead? Now he moves to the slot, and it's just like, so happy for it a little bit. I loved Christian Kirk, but to answer your question, Ruxy, I am going to roll Cole Beasley. I think that, I think that the Bills get a little bit more of a get right. I think Dawson Knox returning helps open up the field a little bit more in the middle. It does kind of concern me a little bit with Cole Beasley that Dawson Knox is back because it seemed like Knox was stealing a little bit of Cole Beasley's work there in the middle of the field. But I think Beasley just has a safer floor than Christian Kirk and Emmanuel Sanders with an equal upside. So I'm going to take Cole Beasley here. Brian?
Yeah, I like Cole Beasley here. I do like the upside of Kirk, though, given what he did recently. Emmanuel Sanders is still tough to trust right now just because the offense hasn't looked as explosive. He obviously still has that big play upside, but I'm going to roll with Beasley just because how he's been utilized the last couple of weeks. And like you said, it's been without Dawson Knox, so maybe that changes and drops off a little bit. But just feels like Beasley's constantly being targeted, and it's a solid matchup. Pretty sure the Jets are last in DVOA for the year, so I'm going to roll with Beasley.
I like it. Quick waiver question. Add on a hold through the weekend, be prepared for potential injuries, etc. And I'm popping this up because I saw it on Twitter. It just happened a couple minutes ago. Deontay Foreman, if he's not added in your leagues yet, Deontay Foreman he came off an Achilles injury that's kind of derailed his career, but he was a fairly physically gifted athlete coming into the league. He's very similar in size to what Derrick Henry was. And Adam Kofler is on CBS. I don't know what to say, or NFL Network, and says that don't be surprised if you see more carries from Deontay Foreman in this matchup over the Saints over Adrian Peterson. So if he's available on your waiver wire, he might be, and you have that extra bench spot. He might be an interesting ad because you could see him take over. McNichols hasn't done anything crazy, and Adrian Peterson, as we know, is 36 years old. So who knows what we're going to get? He looked a little dicey against the Rams. Some interesting cuts. The new offensive line bounce cut that we saw is a new one. But yeah, I like Deontay Foreman possibly as a stash. I just think that there could be something there. Ryan?
Yeah, I like that. No, I like Deontay Foreman. I actually added him in a couple leagues for that exact reason, in case Peterson gets hurt or maybe he sees a larger workload this week. Because I can't imagine that the Titans were very impressed with how Peterson ran last week. Like you said, he seemed to just kind of run directly into his offensive line and then decide to cut, as opposed to it was weird.
Star Latule placed on COVID list. That makes Michael Carter a little more interesting.
A little bit more. But outside of Deontay Foreman, Ty Johnson came to mind a little bit. I don't know if he's available, but the way he's been using the receiving game with Mike White, I like that. He's got some touchdown upside. Trying to think. Michael Gallup, if he's still available, I would be willing to go and snag him. I don't know if, since he's back this week, I don't know if he's still going to be available, but he would be a solid option with Cooper's injury history that he's had recently. If he were to go down, he would step into the wide receiver 2 role and would be very viable. Other than off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody else that I would be looking to add. Injuries have really depleted. I feel like everybody's been snatched up.
That's pretty tough right now.
Yeah, I guess those are the two guys that I would be, along with Deontay Foreman, that I would be looking to add and hold for the week in case something happens to one of those guys or we see an increase of workload for either of them. So that's just kind of where I'm at off the top of my head anyways, without doing any sort of digging deep.
I like it. Do the Bills cover the 13? Justin, nice. No. I actually don't have them covering the 13. I don't think so. I think the Jets play them a little tougher. Now the news, too, with Latule out, Edmonds out. I think, sad as it sounds, I think this game gets a little bit closer than us as Bills fans, Ryan, would like.
Ugh.
Don't even get me started. PPR, start 2. Keenan Allen, Dearness Johnson, Deontay Johnson, and Michael Pittman. Fitzgibbons, you need to, I repeat, lock Michael Pittman into your lineup.
That was
I don't care.
That was the one.
What you have to do, lock him in there. Disable him if you can. If you're a computer coder, disable his link. Michael Pittman's just been too good lately to not start. So for me, he's a must start. And then it gets dicey. I like Keenan Allen. I like Deontay Johnson. And Dearness Johnson just seems like a smash start with the fact that Nick Chubb is not in the lineup, as well as basically no backup running backs are in the lineup. I think it's Brian Hill, I think was activated, possibly, to come in, because I think Felton's still on the list, Chubb's on the list, and Josh Kelly was on the list too. So I think I'm going to take Pittman and Keenan Allen just because Keenan Allen still has Justin Herbert. I do like Deontay Johnson, but Mason Rudolph is obviously the backup for a reason, and I don't love Mason Rudolph. So I just feel like Keenan Allen still got his starter playing Minnesota, who's a fairly soft defense against the pass. I'm going to take that. Dearness Johnson draws the Patriots, who aren't they aren't a stout run defense, but they're also not terrible. So I feel like Belichick's going to take away the run and force Baker to throw. So I'm going to say Keenan Allen and Michael Pittman for me. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same two. Just because, like you said, Keenan Allen's just tied to a better quarterback, and it's not a very good secondary. Just Michael Pittman is a wide receiver 1 in the last 3 weeks. And in those last 3 weeks, he's top 5 in receiving yards, receptions, and receiving touchdowns. I feel like you have to start him. Doesn't really matter who else you have in terms of guys that you're debating. I feel like he's a must start. So I would go with him and Keenan Allen just because he's tied to a better quarterback. And it's a soft matchup. So
I like it. All right, I'm just going to pull some questions off of Twitter, unless you want another surprise question.
You do you. You do whatever you want.
Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon? Which one has a better game?
Javonte.
Really? Why? Oh, shoot. You got saved by this question. I was about to grill you. Jeb has Mark Ingram or Elijah Mitchell in the flex spot standard. So standard, we're looking for touchdowns, in my opinion. So I am going to say I like Elijah Mitchell. The Rams are a good defense on paper. However, they've been pretty leaky to running backs the last little while. Khalil Herbert put up 100 yards on them. And I just think Shanahan's going to be able to establish that run game. And Elijah Mitchell's the guy there. I mean, Jeff Wilson was activated, who we thought might take some away from him. Didn't even see a carry last week. Jermichael Hasty is out, and Trey Sermon's just pretty much dead as far as redraft goes. So I'm going to take Elijah Mitchell. I do like Mark Ingram this week, but I think Elijah Mitchell has a chance to he's just more explosive. And right now he's averaging over 13 PPR points. I'm not sure where he's at in standard, but he still probably is higher than what Mark Ingram is averaging. So I'm going to take Elijah Mitchell here. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Mitchell here as well. He's scored 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Has 100 rushing yards in 2 of the last 3 weeks as well. So I would chase that upside in an offense that is predicated on running the ball. I know Mark Ingram's should see a ton of volume, but I just like Elijah Mitchell better as a player and as a talent, so I would go with him.
I like it. Donovan Peoples-Jones or Jacoby Myers. Ooh, PPR. Ryan?
For me, this is a really big question on if you need the upside or if you need the floor. If you need the floor, it's Jacoby Myers. If you need the upside, it's Donovan Peoples-Jones. The Browns have not been good against wide receivers as of late. They're 28th over the last 6 weeks in terms of PPR production. But Troy Hill has been one of the better slot corners in the league, and Jacoby Myers primarily plays in the slot. And even though he's been Mac Jones' favorite target so far this year, he's still on that non-touchdown streak, and he hasn't topped 50 yards in his last 4 games. Playing Troy Hill.
It's got to end soon, right?
I mean, it very well could be today. It very well could be today. Because he had that one touchdown that everybody went crazy over, and he got called back. So I feel like I feel like that's a known thing in their locker room. I feel like that's something that they want to get done. And he gets such a high volume and such a high target share that if you're looking for the floor, I would go with Jacoby. But if you're in that situation where you played Gesicki or something like that, where you just need something big to happen in order to win your week, I feel like Donovan Peoples-Jones has the higher upside. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it, to be honest with you. Patriots have been 14th worst since week 6 to wide receivers. And as long as J.C. Jackson doesn't shadow him, which I don't expect him to, he should be in for a decent day. Like I said, the upside is probably higher for him than it is for Jacoby, but the floor is much safer for Myers as it is for Peoples-Jones.
See, I'm taking Jacoby here. I kind of pretty much agree with what you're saying. I just feel like Jacoby Myers is going to be more involved in that offense. I don't expect them to run the ball a lot, especially with what their situation is. I think they trust Damian Harris a little bit more, which is hard to say, than Ramondre and Brandon Bolden. So I expect them to kind of throw a little bit more. Keep it in the short intermediate area, which is Jacoby's wheelhouse. And like I said, I don't love anything against a Belichick defense. J.C. Jackson's been very underrated. And like you said, if J.C. Jackson covers him at any point, if he's going deep, it might be covered by that. And I think Belichick's going to take that shot away. I don't think they're going to get that deep shot to really make Donovan Peoples-Jones super viable this week. So I'm going to take Jacoby Myers here. But I can see what you're saying, chasing the upside. Peoples-Jones might have it because he could have a deep touchdown or a touchdown in general because Jacoby Myers just seems to be allergic to the end zone. So, but I like Jacoby Myers still. I think I'm going to lean him there. So I don't think we really helped you too much there, Jim. But maybe the explanations could help you feel better about whichever you were thinking of starting. PPR flex pick 1, Michael Gallup, JD McKissick, Marvin Jones, and Christian Kirk.
Ooh.
Beam me up, Scotty. I don't know. I don't trust Christian Kirk. Let's put it that way. Marvin Jones, I'm out on at the moment until Trevor Lawrence proves to me that he can sustain a fantasy viable wide receiver. I am out. And then Michael, I'm going to take J.D. McKissick. This is where I'm at. J.D. McKissick on the basis that Tampa Bay should be up. There should be a lot of passing involved. Taylor Heineke's not going to have all day to throw, and Tampa Bay allows a lot of receptions to running backs. So I think J.D. McKissick feels like a must start to me. I'm starting him in a lot of spots over guys. I like some of these other guys, but I just feel like J.D. McKissick's situation and what the game script should be just seems too good to pass up. He could easily he could be a running back 1 this week. I feel like there's that much volume that might be there for him. Ryan?
Yeah, I would go with McKissick here as well. Like you said, Tampa Bay's given up a lot of targets, a lot of receptions to running backs. Christian Kirk probably has the most upside in terms of his big game ability, but it's if you trust Colt McCoy to let him have a big game against the Carolina defense has been super tough. So I just trust J.D. McKissick's basically guaranteed workload over the hit or miss that is Christian Kirk in that Arizona offense without Kyler Murray. So I would go with McKissick as well.
Tight ends. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Jim, you're welcome. Thank you. Jeb. You're welcome as well. G. How would you say this? Would it be GGG? I think so. I'm going to go with it. Or is it JJJ? JJ? Or GGG? I'm not sure. Dan Arnold or Pat Freiermuth at tight end. Ryan, lead us off.
I'm going with Dan Arnold here.
Oof. Real quick. Justin, chores, bad. Hate him. Hate to see it.
Gross.
Thank you, though, for the kind words. Back to G. Dan Arnold or Pat Freiermuth?
Going with Dan Arnold. I have him in a couple leagues that I'm starting him in. I'm starting him over guys like Jared Cook and what was the other one? I don't know. I'm starting him in a couple places. His volume share has just been too high. He's got 30 targets over the last 4 weeks. You can't really find it very often in the tight end space. So he's not very touchdown dependent. He's just seeing a ton of volume. So I would go with Dan Arnold, who still has his starting quarterback in tow, as opposed to Pat Freiermuth, who is going to be touchdown dependent with Mason Rudolph. And I'm not as sold on Pat Freiermuth getting in the end zone as I am on Dan Arnold receiving 7 to 8 targets.
Fair. I like it. Dan Arnold's volume right now is absurd. At the tight end position, I am sold on Dan Arnold. Especially going down the stretch, his schedule gets real soft, real fluffy. It's going to look nice. And for some odd reason, they decided they want to pepper Dan Arnold over Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault. I'm not going to judge the coaches. They know more than me. They're helping my fantasy team, so keep doing it. Pat Freiermuth is somewhat touchdown dependent at the moment. He doesn't see that many targets. He sees 4 to 5, and with Mason Rudolph, it could be completely different. Mason Rudolph might not favor Freiermuth where Ben Roethlisberger does in the red zone. So I'm going to take Dan Arnold with the volume play there. I think that he gives you more options. He probably doesn't find the end zone, so his upside's not as high, but the the safe floor and the volume there play for me. A tight end is the play, especially when you're trying to quote unquote stream or figure out the tight end game. It seems just like a consistent target volume. Guys like Tyler Higbee, Mike Gesicki, Dawson Knox was getting it, Dalton Schultz, Kyle Pitts, those bigger guys, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Kittle, all see a lot of targets. And that's the key for the tight end position, I feel like, is the opportunity to score is the target share, meaning they're getting the opportunity. So I like that. And I'm going to roll Dan Arnold as well. He also has Mark Ingram, J.D. McKissick, or Ramondre Stevenson at running back. Thanks, guys. Subbed and liked. Appreciate the sub and the like. Ryan, do you want to lead us off, or you want me to take the triple?
For me, this depends on if it's PPR or not. If it's PPR, I'm rolling McKissick. But if it's not, if it's standard, that dramatically changes my answer.
I agree.
If it's PPR, it's McKissick. Yeah. If it's not PPR, I would go with Mark Ingram.
Real quick. JJJ. PPR is standard. Unless you want both answers, we can give it to you. Ryan did, but I'm not. All right, I'll just do it. PPR, J.D. McKissick. Standard is Mark Ingram. I agree with Ryan with everything he said. I think Mark Ingram has a better touchdown opportunity than Ramondre Stevenson will see, as well as J.D. McKissick. But the dump offs and the passing volume will be there for J.D. McKissick to possibly get him into that running back one territory. I know it's a stretch, but I definitely see it being a possibility for him this week against a team that gives up a ton of receptions to running backs. Start one this week, full PPR. Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox, or Dallas Goedert. Oof. This is a good problem to have. Truly epic. I love it. Sometimes I feel like people negate the tight end position, and sometimes in leagues I start two tight ends because why not? Why not? If I had these, I'd start a couple of them depending on the rest of your roster. But I'm gonna give Dawson Knox a week still. I want to see. He's coming back pretty early from a broken hand, in my opinion. And for a guy that's struggled over his career with drops, don't love that. I think he's going to see a decent amount of routes ran, all the things you want to see from a tight end that could create production. I'm going to see what he looks like and bench that. But I'm going to roll Dalton Schultz. I think the matchup against Atlanta is too good to pass up. I like Dak this week. I think he's a top scoring quarterback this week. So for him to get there, he's going to have to throw to somebody. And I like Dalton Schultz. I like him possibly seeing a touchdown this week. So I'm going to take Dalton Schultz. I know the volume's there for Dallas Goedert, but I'm not trusting Jalen Hurts enough. I'd rather have Dak Prescott be the quarterback to my tight end than Jalen Hurts. So I'm going to take Dalton Schultz just with how good he's been and what I think the game will look like.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz as well. He was a tight end for 4 straight weeks leading up to their bye week, and then saw 7 targets against Minnesota, but only had 2 catches. And then last week, that offense just couldn't get going in general, but he still saw 5 targets against Denver. Dallas Goedert now plays Denver, who just stifled that Cowboys offense in general. So I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz. He's been the most consistent option. Like you said, Dawson Knox has an extremely high touchdown upside, but I just liked the combination of target volume and touchdown upside for Dalton Schultz this week.
I like it. One on Twitter. Darrell Williams against the Raiders or Van Jefferson at San Francisco?
Strictly depends on if CH is back.
PPR flex. Did he get activated off of IR yesterday? Because he would have had to by 4 p.m. If he didn't get activated off of IR by 4 p.m., then he can't play today, is from how I understand the rules. And I don't remember seeing him.
He's officially out. An hour ago, he was ruled officially out. So They did not activate him yesterday. I didn't see that. I didn't see that he was not activated. So for me, it's still Vegas has been so tough. I have to look and see where exactly they've been recently.
You're welcome. Truly epic. I like it. Great minds think alike. But I like your tight end room. Definitely watch for Dawson Knox later in the year. Just let him make sure that hand's good. You said this is PPR for Darrell Williams and Van Jefferson? Yeah. I just still feel like it.
I'm going to go with Darrell Williams. I just feel like he's going to be involved in more ways than Van Jefferson is. And in situations like this where it's two not great matchups, I just kind of lean to the guy that I feel like is just guaranteed to get more work in more ways. And to me, that's Darrell Williams in a high-powered offense, even though they haven't really shown it lately. I'm still going to take the running back because I just feel like he's going to get involved in more ways.
Yeah, I agree with you. I still like Darrell Williams. It's a better offense. Well, I guess you can't really say that. The Rams have been pretty good.
I was going to say, I don't know if it's better.
It's a good offense, and I just think that the Raiders they're a little bit better against the pass than the run. And I see Darrell Williams hit the end zone at least once this week, and it just seems safer with an equal upside to me than Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson carries a ton of upside, but he could easily give you 0 points. So where I feel like Darrell Williams gives you a safe floor with an equal upside of close to 20 points, depending on if he hits the end zone or not. So It's kind of where I'm at. All right, back to you and your Javonte take. So why do you think – oh, wait, no. Another question you got saved again. Darrell Henderson or Elijah Mitchell this week, full PPR. That is juicy. Oh. I'm going to take Elijah Mitchell, and here's why. I think Elijah Mitchell has a little bit more upside on the basis that he's a little bit more explosive than Darrell Henderson. Both are good. Both have explosive takes or traits, but I think Elijah Mitchell has a little bit more jump to his step. I think Shanahan does a little bit better job scheming up the blocking, as well as one key factor that we're going to miss is the best blocking wide receiver is no longer playing football this season. Robert Woods is graded from Pro Football Focus as the best blocking wide receiver in the NFL. And they're a key part of that scheme there in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles. So I don't think that it's not going to kill Darrell Henderson, but I'm curious to see if it affects him. And I feel like it's going to a little bit because getting out on the edge is so key on the offensive line, closing the corner, but as well as those. I'm stumbling here. As well as the wide receivers holding their blocks on the outside. And that's going to be a struggle, I think, for Van Jefferson or OBJ to fill that role. So also they lost Jacob Harris, so they can't even split him out wide. So for me, I'm going to roll with Elijah Mitchell. And just to kind of see, I think Darrell Henderson still has a good game. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible because Robert Woods isn't there to block anymore. But I think it's going to play a little bit of a factor, and I'm interested to see how much. So I'm rolling with Elijah Mitchell. I'm going to chase that upside a little bit.
That Robert Woods take is a very valid point because it's something that I didn't really think about.
I don't think it's not make or break. It's not like he's the key guy blocking, but downfield, that second level, getting the edge, that stuff helps a running back. We'll say Darrell Henderson isn't super athletically gifted in the speed category. So for a guy getting to the edge, it's important to have that good blocking out there that you can trust. And that's not going to be there. And I think it's a severe drop off from the best blocking wide receiver to Van Jefferson and OBJ. So,
yeah. And I've personally seen games where Van Jefferson has whiffed on blocks, gotten called for holding and things like that on when they take those screen plays towards his side. They generally run it towards Woods, but when they've had to run him towards Van Jefferson's side, he hasn't been as nearly as effective as Robert Woods is. And just how they run that offense in that zone running scheme and zone or screen passes that they like to run to Henderson, it's usually Robert Woods that's on the outside blocking, and that's a fair point to make where they might not be able to make those type of plays moving forward because Robert Woods isn't out there. So that's a fair point to make. I'm going to go with Elijah Mitchell here as well, just because of what he's done when given a full workload, and I expect him to get a full workload in games that he's seen at least 18 carries. He's had over 100 yards and a touchdown every single one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they attack this Rams defense. So I would be starting Elijah Mitchell over Henderson. But if you can start both, I think both are startable in full PPR format.
Chris has another question, but he's at OBJ is a very underrated. He also corrected himself and said run blocker, by the way. And I agree. I'm not saying that OBJ is not capable of blocking. I think you make a valid point. He is a decent run blocker, but he's not Robert Woods. Robert Woods has been always through his career. He's just been a solid run blocker. It's something that's made him meh for fantasy for a long time because he's so good at that. He does that in play action. He does it. It limits his ability to go out for routes at times because he's so good at that. And it's just a big drop off. Like I said, he's the best graded from Pro Football Focus. I saw it this week. So no matter what, it's a drop off. And
OBJ's also not going to know the playbook that well.
Yeah.
If he does pick up on it, he's not going to have it fully ingrained into his mind. So I highly doubt that they're going to call on him to run those specialized blocking plays that Robert Woods was able to run before.
Yeah, and it will come. I'm sure he will eventually. Yeah. But I'm just curious to see like week one. Like I just think that there might be a little bit of some confusion there.
Yeah.
But his question is Goddard, Gallup, Elijah Moore, or Ramondre in the flex.
I'm going Ramondre here.
Yeah, I like that. I think Ramondre has a decent upside. Elijah Moore, I think the biggest upside here is Elijah Moore. I think if Elijah Moore plays to what he's been playing, I mean, you could easily see him put up 25 points again against the Bills. But he could also give you 0. We've seen that. So especially like Ryan had alluded to earlier, Corey Davis coming back, we don't know what that offense is going to look like. So I probably feel like you have to sit Elijah Moore a little bit unless you feel like being real risky today. Michael Gallup coming back off an injury, I'm still going to kind of sit him this week, see what he does. Yeah, I feel like I'll take Ramondre here. I think that I'd keep a lookout. I know he's expected to play. I've seen some people saying that he's out. I haven't seen anything from an official source saying that he's out yet. So keep an eye on that. But if he does play, I'd probably start Ramondre. He has the best chance of giving you the biggest week of these guys, I think. So I would take Ramondre here as well. It's half PPR, by the way, Ryan. I don't know if that changes your answer, but I still stay Ramondre.
Yeah.
Full PPR from Sleek here. J.D. McKissick, Mark Ingram, or Van Jefferson. I'm rolling out J.D. McKissick. I should have looked this stat up. I saw it during the week, but Tampa Bay is like one of the worst teams in allowing receptions to running backs. That's J.D. McKissick's role. The game script, they should be behind. And I just think that J.D. McKissick has RB1 upside this week on pure pass reception volume. So I like McKissick in a full PPR format. Ryan, do you agree, or you want any of these other guys?
No, in PPR, I'm taking McKissick.
Alrighty. He also has half PPR, Mark Ingram or Dearness Johnson. I like Ingram here. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that Tennessee's been a little bit weaker against the run than New England. I also think New England's going to try and take away the run because New England's very notorious for that, taking away what you do best. So I'm going to take Ingram. I think that his volume against Tennessee should be good. I think that game gets a little bit more wide open than New England and Cleveland. And I think he sees a little bit of passing volume, that little half PPR bump there. He'll see more than Dearness Johnson will. And I like Mike Ingram a little bit more. Ryan?
See, in this regard, I might learn Dearness Johnson here just because, given what we saw when he was the main back there, how effective he looked, and just the fear that Taysom Hill takes away a little bit of Mark Ingram at the goal line. I would not be surprised to see him get involved with Alvin Kamara being out, because that's just how Sean Payton has ran that offense in recent memory, is when Alvin Kamara is out, Taysom Hill gets involved a little bit more in terms of the running game. So I'm going to go with Dearness Johnson here. I get the Patriots defense and how they are likely to play this Browns offense. I feel like they probably will try to stop the run and just force Baker Mayfield to beat them. But how Dearness Johnson looked in his last full workload, and just the slight fear that Taysom Hill takes away some touchdown upside of Ingram, I'm going to go with Dearness Johnson here.
I don't hate it. Like I said, I feel like Ingram feels a little bit safer. And it's tough. I mean, Dearness Johnson looked really good in his opportunity where it was just him as the lead back. So it's hard to go against him. Sleek, I feel like it's a coin flip. I think go with your gut, close your eyes and just like maybe eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I feel like they're both good. I don't know. I lean a little bit towards Ingram, but it's fair to go with Dearness Johnson. Jim has Michael Carter or Brandon Ayuk PPR flex spot. With Latule out, Edmonds out, I am going to take Michael Carter here. I think that the Jets might be able to run the ball a little bit easier. Latule is a huge piece to that run defense. We saw it last year when he sat out for COVID, that they really struggled against the run. So I'm going to take Michael Carter here. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Just with how the Jets have operated their offense under Mike White, I would suspect that he sees a decent amount of volume in terms of targets at the very least. And like I said earlier in the show, I don't trust Brandon Ayuk completely, given what we've seen before in the past with all three of their main weapons in the lineup. So I'm going to go with Michael Carter here, and Ayuk's matchup doesn't really help him too much either. So I'm going to go with Carter.
Agreed. Truly epic. Thanks, guys. You are welcome. I got till Monday to make the decision. I've been worried about Henderson lately. Yeah, I get it. Darrell Henderson hasn't been super crazily productive as of late, I don't think. But I still think that, like you said, you got some time, mill it over. I don't think you can go wrong. I think both might have decent games. That mid-range, 15-point type game. So I still just like Elijah Mitchell a little better. All right. Questions are gone, Ryan. It is your time.
Somebody send in a question.
So you think Javonte Williams has a bigger game than Melvin Gordon? Please enlighten me on why you think so. I don't disagree with you because trust me, what I'm saying. Oh, wrong way. Wait, wrong way. Oh. I'm just saying. I'm just asking. I want to hear your thoughts behind it.
The reason why is just because I feel like Javonte Williams has just looked better as of late, and just really over the course of the season. He's averaged over 4.8 yards per carry in 5 of his last 6 games. Melvin Gordon has had games recently where he's averaging less than 4 yards a carry, even less than 3 yards a carry. The reason that he's being saved is that he's scoring touchdowns, and not that obviously that's valuable for fantasy, but it's also not a sustainable trend to follow. Like, it's not, especially in a backfield like this where both of those guys are capable of scoring, because it very well could have been Javonte Williams on the opposite end of the touchdown as opposed to Melvin Gordon. It just happened to be that Melvin Gordon was the one that scored. It's not like in Arizona where James Conner is 95% likely to score the touchdown rushing wise for Arizona. These guys pretty much have a 50-50 chance of scoring a touchdown. It's just been on Melvin Gordon's side recently. And I just expect Javonte to just be better overall and even be the guy that scores a touchdown today.
I certainly hope so.
Jaguars running back James Robinson is active, by the way, for anybody watching.
Oh, he is active. That's cool. What's he active? I mean, I would assume he's an NFL player. I assume he's active. I don't think he's a couch potato, but, that's interesting. Good breaking news. Dad jokes for the win. Anyways,
Javonte Williams. Use dad jokes.
Javonte Williams is coming off a 100-yard game. He's impressive. I mean, everything, all the advanced metrics from Pro Football Focus, you name it, all looks great on Javonte Williams. I just still am hard to believe that he outproduces Melvin Gordon as a fantasy point asset. It just seems like once they get in that red zone, Melvin Gordon's just got a knack for getting in the end zone. It's just tough. I have a lot of teams that have both of them, and it really makes it tough because I want to start both, but you're limiting yourself on the upside because you're only, you know what I mean? Like you get the upside because one of them's going to score the touchdown. It's just you can't put another player in getting their upside. It's just tough for me, and I want it to be Javonte Williams very badly. I think that he's obviously the future there. He's going to be a top 12 running back probably for a long time by the looks of it, but it's tough. And there's people out there with that same decision. If you don't want to start both these running backs, which one do you pick on a weekly basis? And it's just tough for me to go outside of Gordon just because it seems like he's been the guy getting those touchdowns. But I would love to see Javonte get that touchdown this week. It's just tough. I just wanted to see where you were at because, I feel like I'm at an internal struggle with it, and I just wish it was. I wish it was clearer. It's something that we're not going to get this year to get much clearer, but definitely something that I was hoping.
Having him go for 17 and 111 last week, as opposed to Gordon's 21 for 80. I mean, if Gordon doesn't score that touchdown, he's even with Melvin Gordon's touchdown, he outscored Javonte by very, very little. It wasn't much that he outscored him by with the touchdown. So I just feel like Javonte is establishing himself as the better runner, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start handing him more and more work and just keep Gordon involved in the receiving end because I feel like he's been more consistent on the receiving end. And eventually, I just feel like that breakout is coming for Javonte, especially if Melvin continues to struggle in terms of his efficiency. That's kind of where I'm at with him. I personally, in leagues, I have to start one or the other. I just keep plugging Javonte in because I'm just waiting for that game where they just give him the majority of the work and he just goes bananas on somebody. So that's just kind of what I've been doing with those two guys. If I have to start both of them, or if I have to start one of them, I should say.
Fair. Just wanted to see where you're at. Just make sure that our brain waves were connected.
They are. They usually are.
All right, Ryan, you got anything else you want to discuss, or you want to hang for a little bit? Seems like the question volume's kind of died. It's probably because we've just handled so many.
We did get a lot.
Maybe things are getting clearer, though. I feel like a lot of people can set their lineups a little easier as the season goes on. A lot of injuries, and it just seems like a lot of lineups can be a little bit easier set. So, and maybe our advanced knowledge we've given people throughout the season, just now they're just smart enough to do it themselves, which
maybe
makes me happy. Makes me feel like I helped.
We didn't have any more Twitter questions. I haven't been on Twitter to look.
Oh no, not that I've seen. I mean, I could peruse Twitter, but
I'm gonna look as well, just because I'm curious. I don't see anything on my end. But you still didn't give me an answer on the question that I had personally on what you think.
Remember.
Of course you don't. I mean, I know where I'm leaning.
So ask away.
I got in full PPR, I got Javonte, Elijah Mitchell, Antonio Gibson, Devin Singletary.
So it's between Javonte and Elijah Mitchell.
In this league, I have Gesicki, who got me a dud.
I'd chase Javonte. Why not? You think he's going to score more points? Why not chase it?
I don't know if he's going to score more points than Elijah Mitchell.
Well, I think he does. If he scores a touchdown, he might.
I do like his touchdown upside this week.
I'm torn. It's really a coin flip between Elijah Mitchell and Javonte Williams there. I like Elijah Mitchell, like we had alluded to a little bit earlier. But I'm going to take Javonte on the basis he has the easier matchup against Philadelphia. So I'm going to take that.
And both of those games are at home. Like, come on, man.
I'm just saying. I think that I'm going to take it. A lot of people like Bridgewater this week as a streamer. I think that Denver does well against Philadelphia, and I think that in that will allude to a couple skill positions getting higher points. Javonte being one of them. Melvin Gordon should see a good week. Jerry Jeudy, possibly Noah Fant. So
that's one of those things where it's like a gift and a curse to have the options to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like my wide receivers, because this is that league where I have Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith. I also have Kyle Pitts, who I should have started over Gesicki anyways, but I forgot to switch them out on Thursday because I forgot Gesicki was playing on Thursday. Because I'm a bad fantasy manager, whatever. I'm in 27 leagues, man. It's hard for me to keep track of all of them.
It's fair. I'm in too many too. And I feel like I might dump some in the off season.
I am definitely dumping some. I'm going to do like strict money leagues and charity leagues next year. And that's basically it. Like I will be in very, very few free leagues. My biggest thing was like people were like, hey, you want to join a draft? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? I'll join a draft. And then you get to the point in the season where there's so many injuries and I got to keep up on all the waivers and stuff. And it's just not fun. I don't like it.
It's fair. I'm going to dump some. I want to get into some campus Canton stuff. So that's going to
I would love to do that.
I have the hookup, so I'll let you know later.
All right.
Jake has a question, more promptu than our terrible fantasy teams and wanting to quit. Mason Rudolph or Tyler Heineke or Colt McCoy if Kyler Murray is out. Where are you going here, Ryan?
Ooh, I personally
streamer battle.
I personally stream Taylor Heineke in a league. I think he's just going to have to throw a ton. He has solid rushing upside. And Colt McCoy was solid last week, but I feel like Carolina's defense is better than San Francisco, so I don't know if he will have a repeat performance. And then Mason Rudolph, I'm just kind of meh about. I know I was teasing you about him performing well last year in his one actual start, but it's still not great. He's got the playmakers to be effective. I'm just not willing to start the unknown of him over Taylor Heineke in a game that he should have to be throwing an absolute ton in order to keep up.
I like it. I don't hate Taylor Heineke. I'm going to take Colt McCoy, though, if Murray's out, just
Ooh.
because how good Colt McCoy looked last week against a very equal. I feel like the Niners, Carolina, similar defenses, both have the same strong points. Maybe Stephon Gilmore gives a little bit of a bump to the defensive backs in Carolina than what the 49ers have, but I think that Colt McCoy will look good. I think James Conner's going to establish that run, and I trust that offense more than I do the Washington football team. I think that they'll have more opportunities to score more touchdowns. So I'm going to take Colt McCoy here. I just can't trust Mason Rudolph, even though he has the easiest of the matchups. And Taylor Heineke against Tampa Bay, I want nothing to do with. I know he should have to pass a lot, but I don't want it. I don't want to trust it. I don't want to have to. Heineke's looked very lately, so I just don't trust it.
He's getting his offensive line healthy too, so I feel like that's part of the reason why I went with Heineke. And if JPP is out for Tampa, I haven't seen anything about him being out, but or active, but that would also help Heineke's case if he were to be inactive in terms of the pass rush.
Fair. I mean, that should help. Is Brian Burns playing? I don't think he's injured, is he? I know from that.
I'm not sure. I did see something about him being injured, but I'm not sure if he's active.
Well, Mac Jones tried to rip his ankle off, but I don't know. He's questionable, so I guess we'd have to see game time decision. But yeah, I still like Colt McCoy. Taylor Heineke's not bad though. You could do a coin flip. In case you're wondering in the tight end position, I'll give you this. Not many people are listening, but if you are, Jonnu Smith's inactive, so have at it. Their big tight end is inactive today, so it seems like Hunter Henry should see a bump.
Were you going to start Jonnu Smith regardless?
I mean, no, but
I did see a report that they were planning on using him in the backfield a little bit. If he were to be active, I saw a report that he was going to see some backfield work today.
You're welcome, Jake. And he's not going to see any backfield work. I traded Hockenson, Hopkins, and Darrell Williams for Deontay Johnson and James Robinson. As sad as this sounds, I feel like it's way closer than it seems. If this is redraft, it's definitely closer. I'm gonna say, really, to me, it feels like you traded T.J. Hockenson, DeAndre Hopkins for Deontay Johnson and James Robinson. Because to me, Darrell Williams, once CAH comes back, is going to be pretty irrelevant. If not, his upside's really capped. So I don't hate it, depending on roster construction. T.J. Hawkinson's kind of been meh because Jared Goff has just been ugh. So, and DeAndre Hopkins hasn't been able to play. So, yeah, I don't hate it. It seems like if someone told me this 5 weeks ago, I'd be like, okay, crazy. But right now, I really don't hate this trade. I know it sounds weird, but I really don't hate it. Like I said, based on roster construction, you really needed a running back. James Robinson's a great guy to add. Like I said, he has a fluffy playoff schedule, so I'm all in on that. And if it's PPR, Deontay Johnson's just the king. So, so you're adding Eckler and Robinson, which are two running backs that I absolutely love in the playoff stretch. So if you're a playoff team, I like that. And you still got Terry, so Terry could kind of bounce back a little bit, hopefully. But yeah, I don't hate that.
Ryan? My thing is who your other tight end option is, because if you downgraded significantly from Hockenson, I'm not sure I like it, because I feel like Hockenson is still a top 5 or 6 option moving forward. And Hopkins has top 3 wide receiver potential once he's healthy and Kyler is healthy. But I mean, if you're trying to make a push now and you're trying to make yourself solidified in the playoff race, then I'd be happy with that. Says he's got Dan Arnold and CJ Uzama as his 2 tight ends.
I don't hate that. I mean, it seems like it's a drop, but like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, if it's redraft, that's not a massive drop for me. It's a drop, but it's not a huge one. And with the way Deontay's being targeted, I am not mad about Deontay for Hopkins, even though Hopkins probably has higher upside, but Johnson just has a much safer floor. And then obviously James Robinson is a huge upgrade over Darrell Williams. So I'll take it. You have a serviceable option at tight end with Dan Arnold as long as he stays healthy and stays involved. So I'm fine with that. And he's got Miles Sanders on IR right now. So yeah, I'm fine with that. It does look gross if you just look at it real quick, but I'm fine with that trade, knowing what else you have. Without any context added to it, it looks bad to me. But having the other options that you have at each position, I'm fine with that.
Nick Ted has Titans or Cowboys defense and AJ Brown or Josh Jacobs non-PPR.
Titans defense for me. And then non-PPR. I feel like you still have to go with AJ Brown. He's going to see Marshawn Lattimore a lot, but I feel like his upside is just too high to sit him for Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs does have a lot of touchdown upside, just how he's been most of the year, but I'm not. Josh Jacobs isn't enough for me to sit AJ Brown, even in a tough matchup.
Really? I almost feel like I'd lean Josh Jacobs a little bit. I feel like you're looking for touchdowns, and I think Josh Jacobs is going to get that against Kansas City and their weak run defense. AJ Brown, I'm a little worried. Like you said, you should see Lattimore. No Julio to help them out over there. They're really going to rely on Chester Rogers. No run game to really establish the play action. I know they looked okay against the Rams last week, but against New Orleans, another really tough defense. So I'm not sold on AJ Brown this week in a non-PPR format. So I'm going to take Josh Jacobs there. And I agree with you, though, the Titans defense for sure. Or the Browns. I still like the Titans. Trevor Siemian looked okay last week, but he's still Trevor Siemian. Could easily throw a couple touchdowns, gets a couple sacks. The mobility's not there. So I like that. So Titans and Josh Jacobs for me. And then Ryan, you had
Titans and AJ Brown.
So hopefully that helped Nick. Might not have, but either way. At least we got the Titans. We got the defense. Titans now.
I do agree with the Jacobs take though. Kansas City is bad against the run, but I feel like Brown's upside is just so massive that I just can't sit him for Jacobs, who, if he doesn't score a touchdown, might just be completely useless in terms of production. So I mean, he doesn't have a game over. He's got one game over 75 yards rushing, one game over 53 yards rushing this year. So if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's kind of dead in the water to you in standard.
And you're welcome, Nick. 12-team full PPR. Full PPR. Choose 2 for flex. Cole Beasley, A.J. Dillon, J.D. McKissick, Sutton, Tyler Johnson. Gallup, Jordan Howard? Do you know what TBM means?
What's Terry McLaurin's middle name? I don't know what TBM is.
Yeah, neither do I. Full PPR. I'm out on Sutton. I think he draws Darius Slay. I'm out on Tyler Johnson because Godwin is active, most likely. Michael Gallup coming off an injury. Don't love that. Jordan Howard, I don't love. Oh, Tampa Bay.
Oh, so you're saying Taylor Johnson. Yeah,
I think I'm going to take Cole Beasley and J.D. McKissick here. I think in the PPR, they both carry the highest upside here, as well as the safest floors. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning to. But I do like A.J. Dillon this week against Seattle with that run defense. He's been involved quite a bit recently. But in PPR, I'm definitely chasing the upside that McKissick offers in that format. And then Cole Beasley, like I said, last 2 weeks, he's led the league in receptions and targets, I believe. Seeing 11 the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to go with him there and just kind of hope that Dawson Knox doesn't knock that number down too much.
I like it. It's all good. Nick, I like it. The ceiling on A.J. Brown's definitely higher than Josh Jacobs. So I get that. Fine with you chasing that for sure. Bruce, you are welcome. Hopefully Cole Beasley doesn't disappoint, as us Bills fans hope that he scores a touchdown today as well. Pick 2, and Glorious P has James Robinson, Alex Collins, or Darrell Williams. Ooh, full PPR.
I like James Robinson and Alex Collins here.
Do you trust the James Robinson injury? You know what I mean? Do you think there's any worry of him getting benched? Not like benched, but takes himself out?
No, and even if he is, I feel like his upside, even with a limited workload, is still higher than the other two guys. He's the one I'd definitely start of these two, and then it came out of Alex Collins and Darrell Williams for me, and I just like Alex Collins' matchup better.
I like it. I agree. I think Alex Collins' matchup against Green Bay is nice. Rashad Penny's a little concerning. I do like Darrell Williams though too against the Raiders. That's a decent matchup. So if you're personally dealing with a concern like I am, where I'm a little worried about Rashad Penny, in the backfield there, I don't blame you for going Darrell Williams. I think Alex Collins and Darrell Williams are the same player this week. I like them both equally. To me, it's James Robinson is a must start. I know the injury concern is there, but if he plays the whole game, he should have double-digit fantasy points this week in PPR. So for me, it's James Robinson, and then I'll go with Alex Collins because Ryan likes it, and I trust Ryan. So I'm going to take Alex Collins, but I don't blame you if you want to roll Darrell Williams out there. So, FYI, anybody listening? 13 minutes ago, Cam Newton is expected to be active. He still may not play, but in some package of plays, he may play. So we may see some Cam Newton in Panthers blue today. Also,
think we get the Superman today?
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. Coming out of the tunnel, for sure. He's definitely running out.
Besides that.
And everybody's favorite first-round rookie drafted wide receiver, N'Keal Harry, expected to get some snaps in the backfield today. So if you want to, go pick him up.
So N'Keal Harry's getting snaps out of the backfield. Why did you say that Jonnu Smith is not going to get carries out of the backfield?
I was joking with you. He's inactive.
Well, obviously.
I didn't know. Why would you give a running back? Obviously, this tells me that they don't trust Ramondre Stevenson. That's all it's telling me. That's all I'm saying. Why are you handing it off to? They're hoping N'Keal Harry is Cordell Patterson.
That's what it sounds like.
They're like, it worked for them. Let's see if it works for us.
I'm smarter than that guy.
And the problem is N'Keal Harry ain't as fast as Cordell Patterson. He might be able to break tackles, but he could break tackles at Arizona State because it was the Pac-12.
I got James Robinson, Chris Godwin, Michael Gallup, Ramondre Stevenson, Dwayne Haskins are all active. And then Jonnu Smith, Zach Wilson, Marlon Mack is another healthy scratch, and Josh Reynolds are all out for the early inactives.
Don't you kind of wish Marlon Mack got traded? I do.
I do, because I just would have liked to have seen him in a different situation.
Yeah. I still think he's got a little left in the tank. I mean, he's not going to play in Indy. I mean, the guys ahead of him are a little better, but, he could have been used in Baltimore. He could have been used in even, say, Seattle. Alex Collins has looked good, but, they could have used him. I mean, there are teams that definitely could have used him.
Oh, yeah.
But.
And it hurt some people's rosters because they dropped guys like Nyheim Hines who didn't perform well, and it looked like they were just doing that just to get Marlon Mack traded.
Yeah.
At least at this point.
All right, Ryan. You got 27 leagues. I got 35 leagues. I don't actually have 35. It was a joke. It was a joke. Okay, I just had to make it sound good. Anyways.
I have more leagues than you.
We have to go watch the Bills score less than 10 points for 2 weeks in a row.
I will drive to Buffalo and stab you in the neck with a spoon if they score 10 points.
Either way. Thanks to everybody who came, asked questions. Hopefully our advice helps you win your league. If not, I apologize. We'll do better next week. Ryan, any closing words? If not, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter. I'm sure you'll answer questions from now until kickoff if they have more.
Yep.
So let them know.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. Continue sending questions in. I will be checking my phone periodically in between setting my own lineups and watching some pregame shows. So feel free to send in questions. Hopefully we answer your guys' dilemmas and hopefully they work out, because I know a lot of those situations I'm in myself, and I will be following our own advice. So if they don't work out for you, they don't work out for me either. So don't come at us too hard if it doesn't work out for you, because 9 times out of 10, we're taking our own advice and doing exactly what you're doing as well. So good luck, everybody. Like I said, continue to send questions in, and I will see you on Tuesday.
Same thing. I'll be here Tuesday, smiling face, possibly not as excited. Who knows? We'll have to see. I'm on a lot of coffee right now, so I'm pretty amped. But you can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. Feel free to send any questions from now until kickoff. I will answer them. I have a lot of leagues that my game doesn't matter, so I'm not even setting lineups. But, not sure I'm actually setting lineups. Either way.
Don't do that.
Either way, my decisions were pretty easy because I have at least 3 teams that have 20 players injured, so I don't have any questions because all I have is my active players. So, till next week, till Tuesday, take care, folks. Hopefully you win this week.